This happened to me about a month ago. Some context. I'm a woman in my mid-20s who lives alone in a cozy flat in the attic area of an old Victorian building, up in the old servants' quarters where I belong. The design of the roof hanging over my window and the high driveway walls means that I get some interesting acoustics. During the quiet night time, the sounds bounce up from the whole long street, even from out of sight. I can hear the footsteps and conversations of passerbys as crystal clear as if they were in the room with me. Yet standing on the drive, you can't hear them at all. It was almost 4 a.m. and pitch dark outside. I had been finding it hard to sleep properly the last few nights. So, I was still up and pottering around in my PJs with the lights on. I had the window cracked and the blinds half open to get some fresh air in. I usually keep them closed. If I have a light on at night, you can see right up into them from the streets and houses across, which I sadly did not realize for my first couple of months here. Sorry neighbors if you saw me dancing and cooking my underwear. However, I was so flustered from not getting to sleep and desperate for air, I thought everybody else would be snoozing. I had done the same the previous 3 or 4 sleepless nights. I had just made some tea and settled down to read a book when I heard my door buzzer ringing. I remembered thinking it was odd that I had not heard anybody approaching, as I was just sat by my window, but I brushed it off as being sleep deprived. Nobody who visits me ever rings my door buzzer. They call my phone, so I grabbed my phone to check if I had missed some of my friends or family. Nope, nothing. I had ran to the window to look down at the porch, but unfortunately I could only see the steps leading up to it. The motion sensor light was on, and I could hear a strange scuffling noise. Then some thuds. I figured somebody had called the wrong flat by mistake and was probably drunkenly stumbling around. Even with my rational explanation, a strange sense of unease overwhelmed me. I felt on edge after I heard the thuds and turned my lights off so I could grab through the blinds without being seen, but unfortunately couldn't see much. After a few minutes, the noises stopped and the motion sensor's lights turned off, although I didn't see anybody come back down the steps. I figured I'd either miss them in the dark or the person they were looking for had let them in. After 20 minutes or so, I relaxed and turned my lamp back on to potter around again. About a minute later, my buzzer rang again. This time it was ringing repeatedly, as if someone was aggressively holding the button down. I froze and stared at it for a while, unsure what to do. I was starting to get annoyed, and I began to worry that it might actually be someone I knew who needed help. Why else would they be ringing my door past 4 a.m. in the morning? I plucked up my courage to answer, albeit with a shaky hand. Hello? No reply. I can hear somebody breathing heavily through my phone static. It sounds like a man. Who is this? What do you want? Again, no reply. Just heavy breathing. I hung up, thinking they got the wrong flat or the telephone was playing up again. I stayed by the wall phone for a few moments, staring at it, unsure what to do. The buzzer went off loudly again, and I about jumped out of my skin as I was so tense. Who is this? Why do you keep calling me? All I can hear is static again, thinking I was getting knocked down gingered. Ding dong ditch from my US friends across the big pond. I went to hang up the phone again. Just before I did, I could hear a muffled voice, and I whipped the phone back to my ear and demanded to know who it was. What was that? Let me in. Huh? Who are you? Let me in. Please. Please? His voice started breaking into a panic. I'm not letting you in. You haven't said who you are. There's people coming to get me. They tried to jump me and I ran away. I'm not safe out here. Please, you've got to let me in. Let me in. Help me, please. Immediately, I noped the fuck out and hung up on the wall phone. There was no way I was letting a strange man into my building who wouldn't identify himself, especially as I had to leave the safety of my locked flat to physically go down to the front porch to open it. My gut told me that his story was complete bullshit, but on the off chance that it was true, I was worried there was about to be a crazy fight on my driveway. I grabbed my mobile phone and dialed 999 as I ran to turn my lights off and shut the blinds again, peeked out through a crack. The man had been ringing my buzzer non-stop since I hung up. But shortly after I turned the lights out, it stopped again. The weird shuffling and thumping noises on the porch started up again as I explained the situation to the emergency operator on the phone. She urged me to stay calm and stay on the phone with her, and said that the police were already aware something was happening. Somebody else in my building had called earlier to say a man had been trying to break in the front door after trying all the ground floor windows down the slide and back. They had a similar call a few nights before too. That explains the weird noises I kept hearing, and why I didn't hear him approach from the street at the front. The noises had now stopped, but I was beginning to panic. Hard. I asked the lady when the police would arrive. She said they would send out a unit as soon as one was available. Yay, recent cuts to police funding. And to stay locked inside. After 10 minutes of no activity outside and the motion lights turning off, the lady said to stay in my flat with the door locked. Sure, like I'm going to do anything else. And to call back if he reappeared, and they'd escalate it to their end if he made it into the building, and she ended the call. I sat by the window watching, and sure enough, a few minutes later, the noises started again and the lights below came on. I don't think he ever left, or even went down to the side of the car park at the back. I still couldn't see what was going on because of the angle from my window. I was about to call the police again when a taxi driver passing by slammed on his brakes and shouted out his window. I stopped to listen. "Hey you, what are you doing over there? I dropped you off on the other side of town an hour ago." The taxi driver knew this man. What a twist. "Oh hey, I lost my keys. My friends live here and I'm trying to get a hold of them to let me in." I see the shoulder and leg of the man around the corner slightly. "You told me you were going home to sleep it off and wouldn't be causing any more trouble like earlier. I asked you to get out of here and you begged me to drop you home still. So I did, and now you're not at home." "I just said I have no keys to get in. I'm trying to stay with my friends. They live here." You could hear that the man was getting agitated, and that edge was creeping into his tone as he lied again. Taxi driver: "So why are you sulking down the side there, making a ruckus instead of ringing the bell? What's going on? What are you really doing?" The man gets angry at this and storms down the driveway to confront the taxi driver. This is my first time getting a proper look at him. Although I can only see the back of him, he looked like a normal, well-presented young man with brown hair, black t-shirt, jeans, and trainers. I was surprised. Based on his appearance, he would not be someone I would normally think to avoid late at night. I couldn't really make out what was said next as they were both shouting over each other, but I could hear the taxi driver yell, "Police," and the man suddenly leapt towards his car door. The taxi driver quickly screeched off down the road, leaving the man standing there swearing and seething. It was at this point I'd realized I had been an idiot, frozen by the window watching the scene unfurl beneath me without calling the police to let them know he was back. I ducked down to pick up my phone, which I must have dropped amidst a commotion. As I spoke to a different operator, the man turned around and strolled down the driveway a little bit, but seemed to hesitate and stop. Staring at my building, I tried to get a good look at his face, but it was too dark to make out much detail. He stood like this for almost 10 minutes, just standing there and staring up at my window, occasionally swaying from side to side. I knew rationally that he couldn't see me peeking out, but I could swear he was just staring right at me, and knew I was there. He stopped looking at my window and turned to stare at the door for a few moments. I was begging the emergency operator to get the police out here sooner, as I was worried he was going to try the door again. However, I think the confrontation with the taxi driver made him lose his nerve, as he was worried about police showing up. I could hear him make an odd huffing, sorting noise in frustration as he left my driveway, slowly walking down the street and out of sight. I updated the emergency operator with the directions he headed off in and ended the call. About 10 minutes later, I saw a police car cruise by with its headlights off, heading the way he'd gone. Unsurprisingly, they never found him, as it had been too long and there were too many side streets and alleyways for him to slip away down. He didn't come back again, but I stayed vigilant by the window until sunrise, crying my little eyes out and chain smoking like hell. I didn't sleep properly for weeks afterwards, and I get extremely paranoid walking to and from my building now. I've stopped taking the bins down if the sun is even slightly setting. Luckily, I had already begun the process to move elsewhere for unrelated reasons. So, I only have to live here for a couple more weeks before I move to a big house with friends. I liked living on my own before this. Now I'm very grateful to be losing my privacy to have some backup. Shout out to the brave taxi driver who stopped to confront him. You were more helpful than local police, and I don't know if he would have left if you had not scared him off. I wish I could have asked you what the hell happened when you met that man earlier that night. So, strange man, trying to trick me into thinking you were in danger so I would let you in. Let's never, ever, ever meet.